citric acid cycle, right? Here is the acetyl. Hang on, let me get my pen. Here is the acetyl that was dropped off from the intermediate stage. Okay, remember coenzyme A was bringing it. It's just a carrier. So together they are the acetyl-CoA. But as you see here, the CoA simply leaves and it's going to go back and get another acetyl. The acetyl is what is left here in the citric acid cycle. And the acetyl joins with the molecule called oxaloacetate, right? Oxaloacetate, right? It's not nearly as bad as it sounds. Oxaloacetate, right? So oxaloacetate joins with the acetyl, and together they make a molecule called citrate, right? Citrate is also known as citric acid, which is why this is called the citric acid cycle, right? So citrate or citric acid, all right? The citrate molecule, citric acid molecule, is then going to begin the cycle. So the first thing that happens here is our old friend NAD comes in and does what NAD always does, which is pick up a hydrogen and leaves as NADH. Okay, now carbon dioxide is also given off. That has nothing to do with the NAD and NADH. NADH is produced and carbon dioxide is also produced, which again, remember that just simply means we have taken a carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms off of this molecule, okay? So all that means is we've gone from a 6-carbon molecule down to a 5-carbon molecule. And then we repeat the exact same process again. NAD comes in, picks up a hydrogen, leaves as NADH, and we also release a carbon and 2 oxygens in the form of carbon dioxide, right? So since you've lost another carbon, you are now down to these 4 carbons, okay? Then ADP comes in and does the only thing ADP ever does, which is pick up energy and leave as ATP. Look, it's shiny. So we have now picked up some energy as an ATP molecule, okay? Then here is that FAD I mentioned to you just a little bit ago. It's doing exactly the same thing NAD does. It picks up hydrogens, except that it can pick up 2 instead of just 1, which is why we have FADH2. And then NAD is back again to pick up another hydrogen. And by the time we take this molecule, hang on, let me now do this. Ooh, this is so fun. All right, so by the time we get this molecule, okay, and we do all of this stuff to it, we take off hydrogens, we take off carbons, we take off oxygens, right? Can't forget about those. Excuse me. We take off, we pick up energy. By the time we make all of these changes to this citric acid or citrate molecule, we are back to having a molecule called oxaloacetate again. That's why this is a cycle, okay? That's what makes this different from all of the other things that we have done up until this point. We don't really have an end product this time, because in a cycle you end up right back where you started. So as you see here, the oxaloacetate is regenerated in each cycle. That oxaloacetate is then there waiting for the next acetyl to be dropped off from the intermediate stage. And as long as this process keeps continuing, then the cycle keeps going around, and the oxaloacetates are always going to be there ready for the next acetyl, okay? So if we end up back where we started, what was the whole point of this? Well, the whole point of all of this was to take off these hydrogens, okay? The whole point is to get the hydrogens. As a matter of fact, the whole point of everything from glycolysis to intermediate stage to the citric acid cycle is all about getting these hydrogens, okay? So if you think about this for a second, right? If you think about what we've done so far, we have produced ATP, right? Well, that's just going to be used by the cell. The amount we have made so far, just a couple here and there, is not nearly enough to keep the cell alive, but that doesn't mean you're not going to still use it, right? If you were starving, a spoonful of rice is not going to keep you alive, but that doesn't mean you're not going to eat it. So you're still going to use those couple of ATP, but you're going to have to make much more. And we'll get to that. But the ATP we have made so far, the cell is just going to use them. It's going to use the energy from the ATP, convert it back to ADP, and then that ADP is going to go pick up more energy, okay? CO2, we've produced CO2. Well, we know what happens to CO2. You breathe it out, all right? So CO2 is just a waste product. Those carbons and oxygens, your body just doesn't need those, and so it just releases them, okay? And FAD, H2, and NAD, those are the question. Those are the ones we don't really know. I told you they'd show up. Okay, so FADH2 and NADH, those are the ones we haven't yet mentioned as far as we know where they were produced, but we don't know where they went. So far, all we know is NAD and FAD came in and took these hydrogens. What we don't know is why or where they went. And that's what step 4 is about, okay? So everything else that we have made so far has been used or released as a waste product. Cellular respiration is all about the hydrogens. So when you eat the food that you eat and get the glucose from it, what your body really takes is the hydrogens, those 12 hydrogen atoms in the glucose. That's what your body really wants, okay? The carbon and the oxygen, they're just, fine, they're there, whatever. The hydrogens are what are important, and that's where we're going to go now into step 4. And step 4 is the electron transport system. So I will be back momentarily to help you with that.